Who knew that Clive Barker was such a monster movie fan? Let's review Rawhead Rex. Rawhead Rex stars David Dukes, Kelly Piper, and is directed by George Pavlaw. What's up, guys? It's time to review a classic 1980s monster movie, Rawhead Rex. One of my newest patrons, Angela from Artic Vixen, she requested that I review this movie. If you're of a certain tier on my Patreon page, then you can request a review. And she requested this movie right here, Rawhead Rex. She actually sent me the movie to review. Thank you, Angela. I really appreciate that. And I have heard the name Rawhead Rex. That was it. I had no idea what the movie was about. I knew that there was some sort of creature in this, and this was definitely an interesting adventure, for sure. Adventure being the process of researching this movie and finally here reviewing it, not the movie itself. But the movie itself is interesting too. Now, first off, before we get into the nuts and bolts, I'm going to give you a quick plot synopsis. Rawhead Rex is pretty much a pagan god. There's a bit of mystery throughout the movie about who Rawhead Rex is, which I actually like. But from what I gathered, this was a god that was actually cast out of hell by Satan himself and eventually buried underground in this community, this small community in Ireland. And this was like, before the times of Christ. This was a god that was like worshipped. And he's not in like human form. He looks like this creature. And we're going to get into more of the actual comic of the creature in the review. But at the beginning of the movie, he is unleashed and he causes havoc on this small town. There is this guy named Hallenbach, him and his family. They're there to research, I guess, pretty much religious artifacts. And he comes upon the curse of Rawhead Rex. And so he becomes curious about it, but then he really becomes interested in it when it causes tragedy in his own family in the middle of the movie. And so throughout the rest of this movie, it really feels like a slasher movie. That's kind of what it is. But with this kind of like grandiose backdrop, using like this god, this pagan god of Rawhead Rex. Now, I'm always talking about CGI in movies and how I don't really like it that much and I prefer practical effects. But there have been times when I actually have thought that CGI could be a good thing if used in small doses. The creature design on this movie, Rawhead Rex, you can tell they were working with a very limited budget. And the creature design, there's no realism to it whatsoever. When you're watching this movie, you can tell it's a guy in a creature suit, which kind of adds to the charm of the movie. It really turns it into just a schlocky B slasher movie in the purest sense. If I go into the backstory on this movie with you guys, Clive Barker wrote the screenplay for this. This was something he did before Hellraiser. Clive Barker was not happy with the end result of this movie at all, and I think a big part of that is the creature itself. The creature in the comics looks completely different than what the creature ended up being on film. In the comics, it's supposed to be like this 9-foot, almost phallic-looking creature, and really the backstory of Rawhead Rex in the comics is a little different than this. He's supposed to be like the embodiment of the male sex drive, which that can be kind of a tricky thing to bring to the actual big screen. A lot of times the ideas that are in comic books are so big that you can almost see the dollar signs. And trying to transfer those to film, it's almost impossible. Not saying that that's the case with Rawhead Rex, but that was, I guess, partly the case. But the end result didn't turn out the way Clive Barker wanted it, and I think that's why he took the helm to direct Hellraiser himself, because he wanted his eyes on the project to make sure that the end result was something that he was satisfied with. Because budget or not, I think Clive Barker could have come up with something a little better looking than the creature that we got, and the movie wouldn't have been as, I guess, low budget B-movie-ish looking. Taking aside the silly looking costume, the actual character himself of Rawhead Rex I think is pretty damn interesting. They offer a few clues throughout the movie that make him interesting. One being the idea that what if you didn't really believe in hell? There is a quote from one of the characters in the movie where he says, even if you don't believe in hell, it started from somewhere. The idea of it started from somewhere, and that's kind of the idea of Rawhead Rex. You know, what if Rawhead Rex existed and he was really kind of the folk tale that led to people believing in hell and Satan and all that stuff? Because at face value, religion really is a belief system. We don't really know, you know, we can't put a hand on God. We can't put a hand on Satan. It's all theories, and it's all about faith and belief and everything. And that's not what this review is going to be about. It's really about this movie Rawhead Rex, but that's where this idea of those beliefs came from. As a slasher movie fan, I do like this movie. It definitely offers a lot of the things that we like in good slasher movies. Blood and guts, there's tons of it. A terrorizing antagonist, absolutely. As silly as that suit looks, the guy that played Rawhead Rex is pretty frightening. Seeing the blood all over the creature and everything is pretty frightening. I think they went for broke on the violence in this because of how the creature looked, to make up for how silly the creature looks. It's almost a test, like, can we make something this silly be frightening? And I think they succeed. There are some scenes in this movie where Rawhead Rex is doing his thing. He's attacking people left and right. Even some shocking scenes where he attacks a child and he kills children. Also, the nature in that Rawhead Rex kills is pretty frightening. He literally eats the skin off of people, and they show it in this movie. So from a slasher fan standpoint, I think it's pretty damn satisfying, actually. And I like that this movie's actually filmed in Ireland. Or I don't know if it was filmed in Ireland, but it takes place in Ireland. And it's just refreshing to have a different type of slasher, a slasher from abroad. Now, you can really have a good time with this movie, and I think that's what it's for, to kind of laugh at and not necessarily make fun of, but it's got some silly moments in it. There's a lot of making out in the movie, and it's almost to the point where it makes you uncomfortable. I guess you could call this like a blue ball slasher. I think I counted maybe 4 scenes of just straight up making out. And after a while, it's like, okay, I get the point. One time you got this couple like making out in front of this little kid, which was weird. And the kid's like begging them, could you please stop that? And they're just like, get lost, which is realistic, but still kind of strange. Like, I wouldn't want to sit there making out in front of a kid. But in terms of Carnage Candy, a lot of fun to be had. There's especially a good RV scene where Rawhead, he just cleans house. He goes and he literally grabs this woman out of a window, rips her shirt off, and throws her naked body up against a tree. Now, jumping back to like the legend, and I like how they establish, how do we kill this monster? You know, that just kind of adds a level of interest to the movie. And I thought the way that they ended up killing him was kind of interesting, because they had to pull this secret weapon out of this altar. And it was kind of like that thing where you don't want to look at what's in the altar, kind of like Raiders of the Lost Ark. And so in the end, pretty much a woman is the thing that saves the day. You know, a pregnant woman ends up killing this monster. It's like the opposite ends of the spectrum, like the most angelic type of thing you can imagine, killing the most evil type of thing you can imagine. I mean, really, at the end of the day, what is Rawhead Rex's purpose there? You know, like when he comes back, does he want to just pretty much take over the earth? Starting with this little town of Ireland? I don't know. It offers some questions. But also, this kind of blends genres a little bit, because of course it's a slasher movie, but it's also definitely a creature feature. I mean, Rawhead in this movie literally looks like King Kong. And it gave me those vibes of seeing King Kong, the 1976 version, when I was a kid. He kind of looks like that creature. And honestly, I think if I saw this movie when I was a kid, it probably would have scared the crap out of me, because King Kong himself scared the crap out of me when I was that young. And watching it now, it's kind of silly. But it didn't have all the blood and guts and everything that this movie had. Even down to the score. This movie was very similar to John Barry's score, I thought. Or just really had that creature feature type of score that we hear from like the 70s, maybe even 60s. But very effective score, actually. I actually used the score as a music bed when I was eating my donut chicken sandwich, and it worked really well.
The horror! Nope.
Now, there are definitely some cons in this movie. I think the religious aspect of the movie almost holds the movie back a little bit. I think they could have presented this as just a straight up creature feature, this creature coming from the earth, and I guess kind of left it at that. I mean, it's okay to explore the legend of the creature and where it comes from and everything, but when you start mixing all this religion and stuff with it, it kind of confuses you a little bit. Because I'm not gonna lie, I definitely had questions about the character after I watched this movie. I even watched it twice. It's just a strange origin story for Rawhead Rex. And I think Clive Barker definitely has like a heavy interest in religion and, you know, those themes and all that stuff. And to mix it with a creature feature, I think you can get yourself into trouble a little bit. And did I mention that the creature design is really silly looking? I think I did. So that's a glaring con about this movie, but it's one of those cons that's so much a con that it becomes a pro, if that makes sense. It's something that you can laugh at, but really have a great time with. Like, this would definitely be a fun movie to watch with a group of people. And I had a great time with it. Definitely did, you know, in the best way. So for that, I'm definitely going to give Rawhead Rex like a high humdrum. It's not the best slasher out there, although it has the elements of the best slashers, and it's not the best creature feature out there, although it has some really fun creature feature moments. I like creature features that are really bloody, and this one's definitely really bloody. So anyway, guys, let me know your thoughts on Rawhead Rex in the comments. Looking forward to hearing them. I'm sure there's going to be some interesting opinions on this movie. Also, be sure to come over to Killer Flicks, where we talk horror all day and every day, and on Fridays, Rooting Free for all Fridays. Follow me at Drumdums on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, and Drumdum out.